Go. What are you drinking today? What, whiskey? Got a coffee, surely. Hey, sure. Hey, I said this to the All right, let's do it. Let's Farbrengen a little bit. Move this to the side. Move this to the side. Party up, bro. All right, where you at? Wow, you're very far. Okay. Did you get one of these? Yeah. You sure? Nuggets? Nothing? All right. One for that kitchen. All right, kind of roll. Oh, no happy owl. The king is in the field. The king is in the field. God should bless us with a great year, an awesome year, a healthy year, a very, very prosperous year. We got to make a lot of money. And God willing, a lot of nachas from our kids. Those that need to get married should get married. We don't want you having kids out of wedlock. Not cool. Right? So you should get married. Those that need to get married, those that need kids should have kids. And those that already have kids should see a lot of nachas. Amen. So, I don't know, nobody's on. What was it? So it's always customary to start with Devar Malchus. So we're going to start off also with Devar Malchus. Devar Malchus is literally words that the Rebbe actually spoke verbatim, except we're going to translate it into English because I think we all speaking English over here. So I think that's good. So let's read this. This is very, very interesting because we're literally coming now. Tonight is the 15th day of the month of Elul. And the 15th day of the month of Elul, we're under the roof, but there's a full moon tonight. Great full moon tonight. And the Rebbe always says, this is the words of the Rebbe, among Jews it is customary to begin with blessing. Peschim b'bracha, we begin with a blessing. And we even know this from the Torah. The Torah begins with a blessing. And therefore, today is the 15th day of Elul, the night on which the moon is full. This represents a complete state in the service of that month. Elul is a month that we take stock of our service throughout the year. We make an accounting. And in this instance, this refers to the present year, 5751, which is a year which the letter service, an acronym from this will be a year that I will show you wonders. And it serves as a preparation for the next year, a year where the letters spell out that it will be a year when wonders will be understood. And we're going to talk a lot about this Sikha in particular, but there was one part that was wow. I'm going to call it wow. As mentioned, there's a connection to this week's Torah portion, which begins Ki Savai El Haaretz, when you enter the land. The word ki, who knows Hebrew? Sometimes means because, sometimes means if. In this pasuk, it means when. We're for sure going to enter the land of Eretz Yisrael. And this is the assurance that ultimately all the Jews will enter Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, we're going to be able to bring our first fruits, the Bikurim, as an offering in the Beis HaMikdash. And then, Hashkifa Ma'ayin Koshecha, God will look out from your holy abode, and He will bless your people Israel. Even though normally Hashkifa is negative, it usually means something bad is about to come. Nevertheless, in this instance, it's positive. We're asking God to bless us. And so, too, all throughout history, when we have things that are outwardly undesirable, really the inner intent is positive. And we saw this by leaving Egypt. Although the slavery was undesirable, the ultimate intent was positive, and thus even in the era of the redemption, when Mashiach comes, we're still going to remember leaving Egypt. You're going to say, why should we think about Egypt? I now have the final redemption. Why do I want to think about being enslaved and all those Jews that died? But the truth is, because really there was a positive aspect even in the enslavement. Ravita! Oh, I love it. And the Rebbe ends off that with the coming of Mashiach, we're going to merit the ultimate revelation of Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, that my soul will be redeemed in peace, and this will be accomplished because Ki Berabim Hoyu Imadi, the multitude are with me. One has transformed the world at large and established unity, and this will aid each and every Jew in the individual surface and ultimately bring about the redemption, which is particularly relevant in the month of Elul. The month of Elul is the last month of the year. It finishes all of the service of the entire year, especially a year that I will show you wonders, and it prepares us for the revelation of the wonders of Eretz Yisrael in Yerushalayim and in the Beis HaMikdash. May this take place in the immediate future of Amen. Very good. Make a l'chaim. You missed the Periscope bracha. You missed the Dvar Malchus. And you missed that the internet wasn't working. L'chaim. We literally just started because the internet wasn't working. Absolutely. First of all, l'chaim. Oh, Mom and Dad, l'chaim, l'chaim. The food now is at that table. Oh, l'chaim.
Food at this table.
Because they were working on the fans when we got here. All right. Well, we said it's something amazing. We said tonight is the 15th night of Elul. And the 15th night of Elul represents the fullness of the moon. That means that the Avodah, the service of the month of Elul, reaches its fullness tonight. And we're going to talk about that. The king is in the field. So if the king is in the field the whole entire month, when is the fullness of the revelation that the king is in the field? When is it revealed the most? Tonight. The 15th day, because the moon is full. It's the most revelation. The most revelation is tonight. Every month is the 15th represents the fullness, and in the month of Elul, when the king is in the field, this represents the manifestation of the revelation that the king is in the field. So the king is in the field big time tonight. It's really, really revealed. And so we ended off that because it's the 15th day of the month, and because we're in the month of Elul, that the king is in the field, that God has to go ahead and complete all of the service that we've been doing in the month of Elul, which is finishing off. This is the last month of the year. We're finishing off the year, and we're preparing for a great year. We're transitioning, the Rebbe says, from a year that I will show you wonders. Show means you could see it with your eyes. And we see many, many miracles. But just because I see it, a lot of times we see a miracle, we don't understand it. The Rebbe says we're transitioning from a year that I will show miracles, not miracles, wonders, even greater than miracles. We're transitioning to a year of that I will be able to bina, understand the miracles. Not just have the wonders, I'll be able to understand those wonders. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'vrachim.
5781, right?
5781. We're going to see where God is going to show us the redemption. It's but we're still in Tavshin Pei. We're still Teishnas Pidusena. And that's what the Rebbe's main intent is. We're still in Elul. So as much as there's an emphasis on preparing, thank you, for the upcoming year, there's still what we have to do in this year. And especially this month. And this month we could literally correct everything in the entire year. The Rebbe tells us that in the month of Elul, every day of the month of Elul corrects for a day, that day, of all of the months of the previous year. Let me give an example. Aleph Elul, you could correct for all of the Alephs. So Aleph Tishrei, Aleph Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, all of the Alephs. Throughout the whole year, you correct with Aleph Elul. And not only that, you prepare. You really set the stage for the next year of all the Alephs of all the months of the coming year. Same thing. Tonight is the 15th. And the night of the 15th, you're fixing up tonight to Sukkot. Tonight is the first night of Sukkot, if you think about it. And Cheshvan and Kislev and all the Jewish holidays and everything that go along with all of those holidays. Tonight, you could literally fix up all the 15th. And you could prepare and set the stage ready for all the 15th of the upcoming year. So the Rebbe says that the problem with that is that the month of Elul has how many days? 29 days. But there are many months, about roughly 6.5 months, depending on what it is, the way the year. Sometimes sometimes Cheshvan and Kislev are both 29 days. Sometimes Kisidron, one is 29 and one is 30 days. And sometimes, like this year, they were both 30 days. And in a leap year, it's always 30 days. So, you have many things. The problem is, if Elul only has 29 days, how do I rectify the 30th days? Good question. The Rebbe says, not a question. Gabriel Weiss, L'chaim. The Rebbe says, not a question. Why is it not a question? Because every single month that has 29 days, what do we do for Tehillim? We say 2 days worth of Tehillim. We say the 29th day and we say the 30th day. And in that way, we also do this in Elul. In Elul, we say the 29th and we say the 30th. And in that way, we're fixing up all the 29th days and all of the 30 days of the past year, and we're preparing for all the 29th and 30 days of the upcoming year. And the 29th day of Elul is very, 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 very holy day. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The holiness of the day is the day that the Tanach was born. And we'll talk about that, God willing, next week in a little more detail. I think even in 2 weeks to Rosh Hashanah. Next week, I guess. We're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail. But the 29th of Elul, the Tanach was born. And the Alter Rebbe said the first 3 chapters of Tanya. 29th of Elul. The Rebbe always forbade the 29th of Elul. You can watch the videos. A lot of them were taped because Erev Rosh Hashanah could never fall out on the Shabbos. On the 29th of Elul, always was a forbade. Rebbe would forbade. The Rebbe would give a lot of Maimarim. Typically, the Rebbe didn't forbade very much in Elul, and here the Rebbe forbade. Also, the 15th day of Elul in the Chabad calendar is very, very special because it is the day that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe and his father, the Rebbe Rashab, established the school Tevchei Temimim. So the Lubavitch school was established today. They didn't start studies though until Chai Elul, the 18th day of Elul. But today, literally in middle of the Sheva Brachos of the Frierdiker Rebbe, they started. They opened up the school. What part of the school did they open? If they didn't start learning until 3 days from now, what part of the school did they open?
Nursing station.
Close? It's about nursing. Close?
The office.
The kitchen. They opened up the kitchen. Rabbi was the first school where they didn't have to. They used to be in Europe that Essen Tag. You know, you have to go find yourself somebody to go eat by because there was no kitchen. You didn't find somebody to eat by, you starved. You better go become nice to some balabas, you know, and hopefully they like you enough that they invite you to eat meals with them. And a lot of times you would eat Essen Tag. So every day you would eat by another place. You know, that was the custom. That was the way that they did it back then. The Rabbi opened up a dormitory, and they opened up a kitchen. And the Farbrengen Rebbe says that the kitchen was so important that already the kitchen, the gashmias, having food to eat, was so important that already that's considered not when they learned the Torah, when already they had the gashmias prepared for them, they had food to eat. That was the establishment. That was the beginning of the yeshiva. Not Chayahu. So the Chaim Chaim Avrocho, it's a day because all of us are literally impacted by the Chabad schools. All of us are graduates in some way of the Chabad schools or have been mentored and taught by people that are graduates of the Chabad schools. And the Chabad students have a different mission than all the other students of every other school. Because all the students of every other school, they focus on learning Torah. They focus on good deeds. But they're not tamimim. They're not complete, which means they don't fully integrate the Torah. Because in order to fully integrate Torah, you need to take the revealed part of Torah and the hidden parts of Torah. And you have to merge them together. So when I'm learning Gemara, you're learning Gemara with the Hasidic interpretation. And when I'm studying Hasidus, I'm doing it with the Nigel interpretation. There's one Torah. And unless you're learning it, one second. I left this open. Somebody keeps it closing. Go. When Josh carries we would decide because fixing his fan on again. Come. So there's tamimus, there's completeness in the Torah that they learn both Hasidus and Nigla together, and they fuse it together as one Torah. And there's also tamimus, there's the earnestness, there's the completeness, and also the actions. So a lot of people, the way they are privately in their home, in their bedroom, when they think nobody's looking, like we had in the Torah reading for today, right, is not the way they act when they're in synagogue when everybody's looking at them. Two different people. They're Geminis. You know, a lot of people are Geminis. And Tamimim, they focus on internalization. They focus on making sure that the inside and the outside are the same. Excuse me. Talking too much. Excuse me. God bless. Yeah, I got a beer. That's why Corona got to end, and we got to get out of this dusty place. I'm up for it. Yeah, oh man. Oh. And the actions that they have on the inside. I'm good. I'll take a cup though. Sure. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's good. The actions on the inside and the outside, they're equanimous. They're the same. That the person on the outside and the person in their bedroom is the same person. This was a character trait that they really instilled into women. And the most important thing was that it wasn't just enough that they learned Torah. It wasn't enough that they did mitzvahs, but that they had to be Neder Slaha'ir. Who knows what Neder Slaha'ir is? Nerot Laha'ir. To illuminate. Their job was to light up the world. Students, not just students, Jews in general, until this time, they stayed in the synagogue They only cared about their own little tiny communities, their own little homes, themselves, and they weren't focused on lighting up the entire world. And Chabad came, especially the Chabad schools, and they raised kids to literally go out into the world and bring light. It's such a dark world. And look how much light there is in the world now compared to what there was 100 years ago. You can't even compare it. If I'm not mistaken, the Chabad school was established Thusrday Nun Zayin, so this would be 1897. So I mean, literally, it's like 120 years. It's not that long. But think of what they did. These students fought communism, they fought Nazism, and then they came to Israel and they fought all the Chiloni and everything else that was going on at that time when they established the state of Israel. And they came to America, right, where there were literally, even the Chabad students in America, there was no beards, no nothing, and they literally transformed every single city, not just in America, in the entire world. There's no city in the entire world, even in the middle of Kathmandu, that doesn't have Chabad, doesn't have somebody over there. Literally, they transformed and they lit up the entire world. Haram. I love it. So, and this was Temche Tamimim. This was the establishment. Don't worry, you're more than 6 feet away from the rabbi. Huh? Yeah.
Where he sits.
Huh?
That's where he sits.
Young, you get on. Time for the rabbi. Come, rabbi. I don't know.
Celebrating on Zoom.
Huh? Here, rabbi. What's the difference? Hi. There you go.
Wow, thank you.
Absolutely. Chaim Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam shalom.
Amen. And the main result that we got to live with on Thusrday, the Rebbe one time was giving, I think Thusrday came in on a Sunday. The Rebbe was giving out dollars, and the people were passing by, and I think Rabbi Raskin, if I'm not mistaken, or David Raskin, one of them are now. One of the principals from the yeshiva were passing by, and the Rebbe says, "Where's the chadarom? Where's the dancing? Where's the liveliness? That wow, Baruch Hashem, we have Temche Tamimim." So the Chaim Baruch tonight is a night to channel it, to have chadarom. We could transform the entire world because natives are here. We're lights to illuminate the entire world, and we have to care at all times. We have to transform and conquer the entire world and transform it to the good. Chaim.
Hi.
Go for it. Chaim.
What's your name? Nice to meet you, Yeshua.
Zashantav, Rabbi. Zashantav.
Yeshua's good.
Yeah.
Yeshua's good. In 1981 or 1980, Masama 1980, I was going to put on tefillin for my first time on the 15th of Elul, because my bar mitzvah is on the 15th of MERCAVA, and even though that now I know that the Rebbe wrote to a few people that when Yom Tov, our minhag is to put tefillin on more or less 2 months before the bar mitzvah. It doesn't have to be exact, but whenever there's chagim, so there are many days during Thusrday that we don't put on tefillin, so it's anticipated. But my father knew 2 months. I lived in Brazil. Traveling was still a big to-do. So my father flew me in, and my father always stopped at Rebbe, as long as it wasn't about him. It can be about his kids. And my father, when my father was in the yeshiva, the Rebbe told it to a few people. He wasn't the only one, but the Rebbe told my father by his name that whenever you want to talk to me, you don't have to go through the secretary. You come, just please knock on the door. He told him, knock on the door and open the door. So my father really had to open, and he took advantage of it that whenever people would travel to the Rebbe, when the Rebbe would go to daven, either Shachar or Mincha, the Rebbe would daven the earlier years upstairs. So in the hallway, people would, people that are traveling, they would stand there, the Rebbe would, Rabbi Groner would say they're going here, they're going there. my father normally would stop the Rebbe. He would walk with him, very quick. My father told the Rebbe, he told my name, he mentioned my mother's name. He knew already, the Rebbe shouldn't have to ask. That this is the first day that he's putting on tefillin. The Rebbe gave me a bracha. I remember very clearly. And I have a Gavaldic picture that the Rebbe, I put on tefillin. The Rebbe did not daven with the minyan. You should know, for many years, the Rebbe used to all hear the Torah with the minyan. Never missed a Kriyas HaTorah. So I have a picture of the Rebbe by the Bima. And I was 12 years old in X amount of months. And I'm standing right next to the Rebbe. I used to have a little pilot behind my ears then. I was looking inside my chitas. I was very much into chitas then. A nice memory from Tezvav. And the Rebbe told me that it should be b'shah toiv u'mislachas. To be in a good and a successful hour. And almost every time that Rebbe gave me a bracha, he always added that line. Which means that there are certain things that the bracha only comes if you do it at the right time. Actually, there are certain things that if you do it too quick, if you force the time, it backfires. Not because the thing is not good. The thing is good. You have to get the shot flavor. When you get the shot flavor, it becomes a mitzlachas. Shot flavor mitzlachas.
Like the Yom Tovim, you can't daven Rosh Hashanah necessarily. Rosh Hashanah, the windows aren't open.
Wouldn't work. L'chaim, it's a very special date. It's the date that, like Rabbi Chaim was saying, that the Lubavitcher Yeshiva was founded. The novelty of the Lubavitcher Yeshiva that never existed before, never, is that there are many yeshivas that taught Kabbalah. Many. Yeshiva, Tanikubalim, you have in Israel. You have many yeshivas that teach Nigla. There was never a yeshiva that taught both in the balance that we have. Never. And that was the whole chiddush of the Rebbe Rashab. So it's a balance, it's a day that gives us koyach to balance the inner and the outer. The inner is important, the outer is important, and the balance is the hardest thing. So L'chaim, Hashem should bless us with Shatero Mitzlachas to become better Tamimim, to be connected to the external and to the internal.
So doing a little bit of storytelling about the establishment of Yeshiva Simchat Tzvimim.
Yeah.
It says the Alter Rebbe had a yeshiva. The Alter Rebbe had a yeshiva, and there were two chadarim, two groups, and they literally studied only Chassidus. That was the thing, and all the nigla was done on their own. Right. Then, by the time the Mitzvah Rebbe became Rebbe, for sure by the Tzemach Tzedek all the way through, there was no Lubavitcher Yeshiva. The Felice Rebbe asked his father, the Rebbe Sham, that they should establish a yeshiva Simchat Tzvimim, Lubavitcher Yeshiva. And the Rebbe Sham said that he wanted to think about it. I think he maybe even also wanted to ask his father. And he came out of the Rebbe Marash's Yechidus room and he says, no. No. And a couple of years went by. The Frierdiker Rebbe got married. And this is literally where we're standing now. The Frierdiker Rebbe got married 2 days ago. Yud Gimel Elul. And right now is literally mamish the Shabbat brachos of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And during the Shabbat brachos, the Rebbe Shab told his son, it says, now's the time. And the Rebbe, I think the Frierdiker Rebbe was 17 years old.
Or 16.
Yeah, he was very, very young. And the Frierdiker Rebbe told, and he said, now's the time. I don't know, I started coughing.
Don't get nervous. Not every cough means who knows what.
No, I'm not worried about it. No, I was.
1,000 years, people cough.
Not worried about it. No.
And people sneeze. Okay,
Well, what happened is very interesting. The Rebbe Shab says not only is now the time, but we have to do it in the middle of the Shabbat. And so, like I said, on Tetzvav, they opened up the kitchen, which was a novelty because there wasn't S&T, they opened up the kitchen. By the way, in Atzmok and some of the other yeshivas, they did have S&T. But here they didn't have. And then in the Chayel, they started learning. 1 second. Tony, what's up?
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Tony. Tony, want a beer?
Yes.
Cerveza. Yeah. So talking about the connection between Tesvavel and Chayil. You have the beginning, the establishment of the Yeshiva Stem Chitziminim, and then you have the beginning of the actual learning. But it took 3 years to get a name. The school didn't have a name. I think it was Simchas Torah, if I'm not mistaken. Simchas Torah, the Rabbi Shav, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe was Farbrengen, and he says, if I'm not mistaken, it was about
because he was speaking
right.
about
It was, and he says right. He was talking about that cover. So, well, there was two things. Talking about Orlo. He says that the first 3 years that you plant something, there's no benefit from it. You know, we don't eat the fruit. And I heard that the Tamimim at that Farbrengen were crying because they were the first 3 years, and it was garnished. Nothing. The Rebbe Shav says, but now we're beginning the 4th year, and these are kodesh. They're holy, and you can take them to your shrine and you can eat them. And that if there's anything that happens, you know, whatever it is, and you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know if it's going to last or not. You plant a tree, you don't know if it's going to exist or not. You don't know if it's going to die or not. By the time the 4th year starts, you know that, oh, you know, if it survived 3 years, now it's giving fruit again for the 4th year, you know, it's on good standing. And you bring those fruits and you eat them in your shrine. And the Rebbe Shav said, yes, from one of the Hashanas, I would say, is Taim Chitimimim, and like I said, Tamimim, we said that there were Tomim, they were complete in 3 aspects. The Torah, like Rabbi Zajac said, was complete because it was Chassidus and Nigla together, intertwined. And even while they were learning Nigla, like the Rabbi does, you listen to the Rabbi's Daf Yomi. He literally, the Nigla is with Chassidic interpretation. And vice versa, when you learn a Chassidus, it's with the Nigla, everything is intertwined, it's Torah Tamimah, it's one complete Torah. And the Maisim, the students of Tamimim, their actions were perfect. They were complete on the inside and on the outside. They internalized what they learned. It wasn't that they learned it and they didn't practice what they did, especially in the bedroom and stuff. They were complete. one of the complaints that the Frierdiker Rebbe, who was the principal of the yeshiva, had was that the students, when they were going to bed, they were in their pajamas and they were reading Likutei Diburim from the Frierdiker Rebbe. That is Chronicles and some of it was Torah. And I told them, how could it be that you're in pajamas, you're this, you're going to bed, and you're reading literally Torah. They're reading Torah like a good night story as they're going to bed. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said, how else should a Talmud go to bed? Right? You're going to bed and you're preparing for tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be a much greater day than today was. And especially the way a Talmud does Krishna Amita, with tears, it's with, it means something. It's not like 20 seconds here, flipping the pages. After that, how do you expect the kid to go to bed? Right? The kid should go to bed, right? With Torah. It should be literally so internalized. It's not like today we, YouTube and this and that. By the time we go to bed, don't even ask, right? But that's not the way it's supposed to be. The way we want to wake up in the morning is the way we have to go to sleep the night before. This is the way that the Rebbe Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe, they instilled in the Tamimim. How you're going to be complete? You got to be on the inside and on the outside. It's got to be equanimity. It's got to be the same. It's Yashvus. And this is called Tamimus. So you have Tamimus in the Torah. You have Tamimus in the action that they did. And also B'dibur. One of the things that Tamimim had to do is they had to go, not just like the Mitzvah Rebbe, where they, people said Chassidus on the way back from Lubavitch. There was an actual Aveda where Tamimim would go around to other shuls and this and that, and our Rebbe really made this a campaign of his when he took on the leadership. I think even in the 40s, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was already the Rebbe used to send Tamimim out to all the shuls around Crown Heights every Shabbos to go ahead and speak words of the Frierdiker Rebbe in the other shuls. And that's how Likutei Sichos even got started. It was because they wanted something edited to go ahead. If they're going to go to another shul and they're going to take a chrayas responsibility, they don't want to take the responsibility on themselves. They wanted something that the Rebbe had gone ahead and he edited himself, and this is what they would go to the other shuls, and they would go ahead and they would publicize. So the Tamimus was literally in Machshava, it was in Dibur, and it was in Ma'aseh. It was in thought, speech, and action. So right now we're literally we're in these 3 days. These 3 days of Tesvav El to Chayil. Tesvav El, like we said before, is the fullness. The moon is full. And the Rebbe says the whole entire Avodah of El, the fullness of that Avodah is tonight. The completeness is tonight. The revelation is tonight. And from the fullness, we're going to Chayil, the life of El. And the Rebbe said for Chai El, there's many interpretations. What does it mean, Chai, the life? Is the life of El, the life in El? And at the end of the day, the Rebbe says, this is the day that gives life to El. Chai El brings life. It brings life into the month of El. So and this is what we're going to have, God willing, Monday night here in Shul. For men and for women, there's going to be a very big Farbrengen. It's luminaries of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, both of their birthdays were on Chai El. Our anniversaries, also Chai El, yes, very big, but 100%. But Chai El was also the first day of actual learning in Tefilla Tamim. So I think it's 8:30. What time's it for Ryan?
8 o'clock.
I don't know, 8 o'clock.
Not 8:30. Every yeah.
Yeah, here, come. It should be a big bereif am how to smell of. And especially since there's going to be many malochim, there's a Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, our Rebbe, then you really need a big crowd. Let
me tell you a beautiful story that I heard secondhand from a friend of mine he's not older than me. There was a big rabbi in Crown Heights called Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dvorkin. Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dvorkin. I came to 770. I came in the 80s. He already passed away. But prior to that, in the earlier years, in 1950 and 1960, he was the big rabbi in Crown Heights. He was born in Lubavitch. In Cheder, he went to Lubavitch. In Cheder, he went. Then Lubavitch moved out, so he didn't learn the Tanach in Lubavitch. He's the original, we're going back. He saw the Rebbe Rashab. Okay, so listen to his story. So he shares the following memory he has. We're speaking about the Lubavitcher Yeshiva, that today celebrates the founding day of the Lubavitcher Yeshiva. In Cheder and Lubavitch, as you can imagine, it's not like here in LA that after school hours there's a lot of entertainment to do. But what do you do? What did you do as a kid to entertain you? You grew up already there was television, there was radio, there wasn't television, there wasn't radio, it was nothing. There was nothing to go to. It was a little village. So he shares the Kabbalah story that all the Cheder, his classmates, the yeshiva was founded already. In the yeshiva, there was a dining room, and in the dining room, there was a big samovar, there was a big water kettle, and there was tea, free. There was tea, there was hot water and tea, a big thing. So now 1 second. In the yeshiva, there was a non-Jew who was in charge of the cleanliness of the building. His name was Ivan, a Russian Ivan, and God blessed him. He was a very big Russian. He was a big, mighty Gibber. And he did not like for anyone to go into the dining room unless you were in the yeshiva and it was the right time. It wasn't the hefker belt free for all. So the entertainment of the boys was to go into the dining room and to manage to get a tea without Ivan seeing. That was a big thing. Because if Ivan would catch these boys, 8, 9, 10-year-old boys, getting them, he would chase them, and they would run for their lives. Just imagine 8-year-olds running from this big Russian Ivan. He was one of those boys. And this is, what a beautiful story. So he says like this, that in the Lubavitcher Yeshiva, there was a bacher by the name of Shimshon. Not Shimshon HaGibber. Very much not Shimshon HaGibber. He was an average guy, not physically strong, but he davened the whole day. He would finish davening 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Imagine a yeshiva boy. They would wake up early. They would go to the mikdash. They would learn Hasidus, and davening would normally begin 9 o'clock or 9:30, and he would daven until 4 or 5 p.m. Like at Tzaddik. When he finished davening, he would go into the dining room. There was no food to get a cup of tea because that was his breakfast. So he says, so now you imagine a guy that wakes up, he didn't eat, you're fasting the whole day, you're trying to connect to God. You have in your mind different Hasidic ideas. And he goes into the dining room, and at that moment, Zalman Shimon and his Chaverim, they were trying to get the tea, and they were caught by Ivan, and Ivan was chasing him. So when he enters the dining room, what does he see? This tzaddik of Shimshon, he sees Ivan running after Cheder kids. Now, when these holy people, what's the whole inner struggle? That there's the godly part, then there's an animal, and there's a war, and you're dealing with the war and all of that. So when you're living with that deeply, and then you see an image of what for sure must have represented the animal, which was Ivan, and the godly soul was represented by these little yeshiva cheder boys, and he was such a mighty spiritual person, is that he picked up Ivan. Wow. He picked this little bucket, picked up Ivan, and he told him, "You may never chase after Jewish boys." And he threw him. And it was like impossible. Food table over there. And that made a very deep impression on him. It made an impression on him because it showed that it was so emistic. This guy's inner fight between the good and the bad. That's the one with the one that's when you live with that, and then you see an outer jump to action. He jumped to action, and he says he became like a shimshon. It didn't make sense. How can someone so little pick up such a big guy? And he saved him. And from then on, Ivan never chased the boys. He was afraid of shimshon.
The mouse. Wow.
Which yeshiva is this? This is the yeshiva called Tanach Tamimim Lubavitch in the Lubavitch yeshiva.
Hi. So Rabbi, why did the Rabbi go to the Tefilla to Mary? The Rabbi said he never won.
No. Why didn't the Rebbe go to the Rebbe Rashab?
That I know, because the Rebbe Rashab said he wasn't destined to be his husband.
We don't know that. That's a guessing. Guess.
After that, he never bothered.
There's no, well, we don't know.
Scared.
People underestimate the Rebbe's father. Could even the Rebbe, for someone like the Rebbe, the best mechanech was his father. How could someone think
Happy birthday, Tanach.
For sure. It could be. I don't know. We don't know.
The night or was today? Today, $2.
Happy birthday! I love it.
Are you 21 yet? You 21 yet? Exactly.
I'm going to make a phone call. I'm not going in this week.
You were
Guys, if anyone wants a culinary object, we have Peter's fresh birthday night.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everybody came out what? After the game.
What is that, Daniel?
This is whiskey.
Oh, you're right. You made it in person. Wow, that's such a honor. So good food.
Japanese whiskey.
And I,
Brought them from you, why not?
So Danny, I got to tell you this because Gabbai. So like, what can you give the Gabbai? This is like best guy ever. Best guy ever is best Gabbai ever. But the Rebbe actually, this is funny, but it's true. It's written and it's edited. It's edited. The Rebbe edited himself on the last Simchas Torah, Tavshin Nun Beis, 1992. Lays out there. That's all I got. Yes, I figure most people are gonna have whiskey.
Or beer. Or wine.
Do you want more?
Jay, go on.
All right.
I think there's a knife there. Is there a
So-
corkscrew on your knife?
Huh?
The corkscrew on the knife?
Yes, there's a corkscrew on the knife. The knife has a corkscrew and has a bottle opener. That's why we brought it.
I like you. I'm happy I came here.
Yes, I'm happy you came too, Sister Shachianu. Huh?
Let's go to sleep. We're happy to
Shachianu.
Let's start doing
Huh? Come. And when you get food,
I'm listening to mine. Hey,
I have like wings and nuggets, and he brought yapsik and
call
chol.
me up.
But and he brought forks and knives. That's very good because I don't have that. No, so you gotta listen to this. So the Gabbai is Shmini Atzeres, and the Gabbai says to go make kiddush, for praying before our kafis in the sukkah, and so the Rebbe interrupts the Gabbai, and the Rebbe says that Gabbai, Gimel Beis Aleph Yud stands for Ona B'Koyach Yidus Mincha. Ona B'Koyach Yidus Mincha. You're the right hand of God, literally the right hand of God. And then the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says, not if you want, but in the imperative. You should listen to the Gabbai. The Gabbai said, go make kiddush. You should listen to the Gabbai. Go out to the sukkah and make kiddush. So, Danny, I can't make a better one than that. So, best Gabbai ever. Right hand man of God. Yeah, say something then.
An hour late. How would you come to the door? Excuse me. What is the schedule, Rabbi?
8:30.
It says 8:30 is this year and 9:30 is the following
It's the
year.
same thing.
You know,
Come every week at 8:30, you know.
I think it starts at 9:30. That's what I saw on the flyer.
8:30 at my age is right my bed. 9:30 is the shit.
Danny, say something.
Okay. I will,
What is it?
There's something I want to share tonight. I'm not sharing yet, Rabbi. So I'm going to tell you already in advance. I fully understand if you have to go to sleep.
I have kids to
And I'm just saying to you, Rabbi, the good stuff for me is coming later. And you'll have to either tune in on the Zoom or get a chazara for someone, or Ellie will figure out the recordings, whatever. And that's as it relates to tonight. It's coming, but I got to warm up to it. And so it's like potatoes with meat. Very good.
What do you want?
Are you sure you can see it? I don't know. I don't know if I can see it, but whatever. Anyhow.
We can hear you.
So I was thinking.
There's nobody on Zoom, I don't think. And nobody's on Zoom.
My
Don't
birthday
worry.
was and you have a lot of different thoughts on a birthday. There's achlatas, there's kind of like a little cheshbon nefesh. What am I up to? I think part of for me this birthday has been just kind of looking at my life and understanding how much I have to be grateful for. In life, there will always be challenges. And when we're in a place where we're feeling challenged, in that moment, we often feel like, oh, it's the end of the world. It's like it's a disaster. You can't even fathom how bad it is. I'm not saying me, I'm just saying people in general. And most of the time, it's not that bad. And there's I think, maybe a slightly unhealthy way of dealing with trauma or with challenges, which is you look to someone next to you who maybe has it worse. And you say, hey, at least I'm not that bad, right? Okay, whatever, I'm a little, I don't know, you're constipated that day. Okay, so what? At least I don't have cancer, right? Like there's, Baruch Hashem. And so, today, there were two things for me that I'm thinking about. One was this morning at davening, being there with Ryan, and you see the kind of like the conflicting emotions of both happiness and maybe the opposite of happiness. And what that feels like, what that challenge is that he's going through, that his wife's going through, that his parents and his grandparents and his in-laws are going through, is like, it's one of those things you only know it if you know it. And thank God I don't know it. And then, just about like an hour ago or so, I got a text from Nachman Abbott, who's the assistant rabbi, I guess, of North Hollywood. And he said to me, Danny, you share the birthday with my mother. And he sent a picture of the 11 Abbott kids, I think, 11 in the picture that I counted. His father and his mother, who shares the same birthday as me, who's sitting there in her wheelchair as she's in the process of basically, she has ALS and she's like decomposing while she's alive almost. And so I have these two thoughts today on my birthday as Ryan named his daughter Ahava Nesia. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Right? Love and miracles. And the miracle of love, I don't know how they're, come up with that, but, Chaim, that first of all, that they should see miracles.
Amen.
Their miracles are our miracles.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that when you're in a community in general, specifically in a community like ours, Our joys are each other's joys, and our sorrows and our pains are felt by each other, and it's shared. And so I say, L'chaim, that Ryan and Bridge see the miracle that they need.
Amen.
And L'chaim to the other people that need the miracles. And I say, L'chaim to all of us, that we should really understand the gifts that we've been given, appreciate the incredible, wonderful lives and blessings that Hashem has showered down upon us.
Amen.
And we should all be aware of it, and we should use that awareness to enhance our connection, first and foremost, to Hashem, and doing what He wants us to do down here. And we're learning this Torah and doing it in this place. And at the same time, to have us all individually, each in our own way, in our own lives, really lead more evolved, more aware, more conscious lives with real appreciation.
Happy birthday, Shnas Hatzrocha. Very successful year. Only happy occasions. Only happy occasions.
For anybody else, I have this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Huh? It's good?
It's actually 33. I like the couple. No, 3.
Hey, yeah, la, la, la. Oh, Daddy, sign them. Send it to the Rabbi. You can make a 10 minute, Rabbi? Go from one mashma to a higher mashma? It's like wine. It's very interesting. To go from red to white, you can make a 10 minute, not the other way.
That's right.
That's what I heard. Huh? Yeah.
You have a cheaper
Very
red
interesting.
wine than a white wine.
It's very into it.
Yeah.
$100 red bottle of wine to Barton Euro.
It's interesting. Huh?
He doesn't drink Moscato, but you go from red to white, you can do it. It's weird, because usually in halacha, red is.
Yeah, not for this. I don't know. Yeah. Well, Chaim, Chaim, Daniel, Chaim. On many of the WhatsApps today, there was a lot of Bikurim stuff going on. Tzedakah and Shruman, Bikurim, and it's the first fruits. And the first fruit was something very interesting. As soon as the fruit, literally, the blossom fell off and the fruit started to not even ripen. It wasn't even ripening. It started to grow. You tied a red string around it, which is interesting. You don't know what's going to happen to this fruit. You don't know if it's going to be good. You don't know what it's going to end up being. It's not like you're going to get the final product and you're picking the best of the final product. That wasn't this mitzvah. This mitzvah is Bikurim the first produce to come off the tree. This is what we gave to the Eibusher. Very interesting. The Rebbe said that the Jewish people, we are the Bikurim of the Eibusher. We are not just the firstborn, we're literally the first fruits of the Eibusher. And when you look at what preceded the world, Kabbalah teaches us there were two things that preceded the world: Torah and the Jewish people. And we know Bereshis, Beis Reishis, B'Shvil Yisrael, B'Shvil Torah. The Rebbe said, but which one came first though? So they both preceded the world. We know the Torah came 2,000 years before the world. Where did the Yidden come? Were they before the Torah or after? It's a good question. So the Rebbe says the Jewish people came even before the Torah. How do we know? Because the Torah says, David B'nai Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. That means there must have already been a Jewish people if the Torah, which came before the world, is saying, speak to the Jewish people. They're just like, that's it. Jewish people. So you have Jewish people. Oh, wow, look at this. You have Jewish people are literally the Bikurim of the Eibusher. And the Rebbe says when it comes to the whole entire knot, when it comes to Jewish people, it says the Jewish people, God, and the Torah, all three of us were intertwined knot. So when the Jewish people have Torah, they forge a connection with the Eibusher. But the truth is that the Jewish people, even without Torah, were already connected with the Eibusher, because the Torah only came into being after the Jewish people were created. So that means God has an intrinsic bond with every single Jewish person, man, woman, child. Whether or not they're connected to Torah doesn't make a difference to Torah. Every Jew has a connection with God because we're Bikurim, we are the God's first choice. Is that Marty? No, who's that? No, not Marty. Who's that? I know, it's the mask. I can't help you. Huh? Daddy, who is that?
Jan the Legend.
There you go. Jan the Legend? Jan. Very good.
He's from Bell Harbor.
Oh, very good. So,
Stick with God by himself.
because you know why? Because he carries himself. You can tell. You can't when you carry yourself. You know you're the guy by it. 100%. And this is 100% that Rebbe says you can't have Torah without the Jewish people, because the whole entire Torah talks about the Jewish people. But you can have Jewish people without the Torah, because the connection that a Jewish person has supersedes the Torah even being in existence. It's amazing. The Rebbe says when we're talking about Bikurim, how can you live and exist without this? Is great. This is great. So let's talk about Bikurim. Say that one more time.
Say it's integrally true.
100%. So the Friedrich Rebbe said that there are three things that are intertwined with each other. Three ahavas. There's three loves. There's the love of the Jewish people, there's the love of the Torah, and there's the love of God. And you can't have the love of another, Torah without the love of another Jewish person. You can't have the love of God without the love of a Jewish person. No intertwined. To your point, 100%. Yet, this is very interesting. The Torah cannot exist without a Jewish people. Hence, when God said, I'm going to destroy the Jewish people, Moshe said, rescue from the Torah. It doesn't make any sense. The whole Torah is Davar B'nai Yisrael. Already from Bereshit's Bara, the first letter of the Torah, Bereshit is B'Shvil Reshis, B'Shvil Yisrael. So you can't have a Torah without the Jewish people. But you could have a Jewish people even if they're not connected yet to Torah. The fact that they're not yet connected to Torah does not at all diminish from the connection with God. Because the connection with God and the Jewish person is intrinsic. Huh?
And that's why
the proof is that it came first. There was no Torah even, and yet there was already a Jewish people. So you can't have a Torah without the Jewish people, but you could have the Jewish people connected with God without the Torah. And this is a very important lesson. We're in Elul right now when the king is in the field. We know when the king is in the field is not a desert. And the Alter Rebbe talks about this a lot. Why is the example with a field and not a desert? Because a desert is a wasteland. A desert literally has absolutely nothingness. No water, only snakes and scorpions. A field, on the other hand, produces. It gives you food. It even gives food that the king himself depends on. The king cannot live without food. And without those workers in their overalls and whatever it is picking food, the king can't exist. And the king is on his way back to the palace. And before he goes back to the palace, with all the intimidation and with all the regal and all of everything that goes on with being in a palace, the king first stops in the field. Yeah, more than that. It's all in trepidation. Much more than, it's not just a Trump rally. Much more. Yes. And before that, the king stops in the field. The king stops in the field, and the king's not dressed in his royal garments. He dresses like the field workers to make himself more accessible to them. And not only that, the people in the field, they know he's still the king. They know he's the king. So what does the king do? He puts on a smile. He greets them with not just a smile. He literally goes to them and asks them what they want. He approaches them. In the month of Elul, the 13 attributes of mercy, literally this is one of the three names of the month of Elul. It's Chodesh HaRachamim, it's the month of mercy. God approaches us. Why? Because even when God is in the field and is much more approachable than any other time of the year, it's still very intimidating for us. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes in Malkuti Debur an amazing story. He says that the king, you already have the proclamation that the king is coming into town. When you know the king's coming into town, you prepare already. You start, you put all the ribbons up, you get the band ready. The band's already preparing for a month before the king comes. They want an amazing impression when the king comes. And the king, he's advertising that anybody could come and ask him for anything. And the king comes to town. King comes to town. Now, it says the king comes to town in Chodesh Elul. But we know already in this Chabad house, the king's already coming to town, Shabbos Mavarchim, because the Rebbe says that. And in this show already, the king's coming Thursday night for Farbrengen before Chodesh Elul. The king's already in the field. The king's in the field and he comes in. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, and there's a person, and he says, I didn't prepare. I knew the king was coming in, this and that, but I at the end of the day, I didn't prepare. Still off, whatever it was. I didn't prepare. He says, but don't worry, the king's here for a whole month. It's in the proclamation. The proclamation says the king's here for a month. So I'm not going to go today, because today I'm not ready. Still the king, I'm going to go tomorrow. What happens is, by the time the whole week went by, a whole first week of Elul went by, and he didn't go to the king. And meanwhile, everybody's coming to the king, and the king's joyous, and the king's happy, and the king's giving everybody everything that they asked for, and he didn't go. But he says, you know what? There's still Shabbos. Today I'm going to prepare myself because Shabbos, we could dedicate ourselves. We're not at work anymore. We're not schooling the kids anymore. We can prepare. But he doesn't prepare on Shabbos, Sunday, and another week goes by, and the next thing he knows, it's already the week of Slichus. It's already the week of Slichus. It's already Mitzvah Shabbos, and he hasn't come to the king yet. And literally time is running out. And he knows, this is very important, he knows something very, very important. The king comes to the field for one reason. It's because at the end of the day on Rosh Hashanah, every single person that's alive, very good. Every single person in Rosh Hashanah is coming to the king whether they like it or not. Because that's what Rosh Hashanah is. And it's not just Jews, by the way. It's also non-Jews. Every mankind comes to the king on Rosh Hashanah. God gives us the opportunity to become intimate with the king for a whole entire month before we go to the throne room. And it's very important we become intimate with the king, because if we don't become intimate with the king, and all of a sudden you just go to the throne room, and God says, "No, what do you want today? Today's Rosh Hashanah." We can't even open up our mouth. We don't even know what to say because we haven't built that relationship with the king. And so God gives us the opportunity. We're literally right now is the 15th day of the month. The 15th day of the month, the full moon is shining. The whole revelation of the month of Elul, the month of Hassan, is tonight. Not Chai Elul, tonight. Tonight already, the Rebbe says, the full revelation of Elul is tonight. The moon is full tonight. The king, as much as the king is in the field tonight, if we haven't, for some reason, I know I'm guilty, by the way, if we haven't yet come to the king, and we really haven't, come to the king and really Maidani ourselves, acknowledge that the king is the king. Maidani, Bittul. Yes, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
I never heard that Maidani used as like a...
It's definitely a verb. Definitely a verb. We got to Maidani ourselves, and this is it. The king is in the field. And thank God, the Frierdiker Rebbe says we're very lucky, because it's only halfway through the month of Elul. We still have another 2 weeks. We could still, even if for some reason we didn't make it before Elul, and we didn't make it the first 2 weeks of Elul, we can chaparayim tonight. Tonight, it's literally a full moon. Tonight, we can chaparayim melch, and we don't even have to approach the king. The king approaches us, and the king approaches us with a smiley face, and he asks us, "What do we need?" And we should know what we need. And even if we don't know what we need, hopefully God knows what we really need. And in this way, we make that connection. We become intimate. We emote. We daven, right? We emote with the king. And that way, when we come to Rosh Hashanah, we're going to be on a conversation on a first name, hopefully, basis with the king. And we're going to be able to come to Rosh Hashanah and be successful. It's going to be a successful year.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Hello. Your name is go. I'm going to send it to them tomorrow. Your name is Mother's name. I send it to the Rabbi every week. Every week. So great. Kids are Shalom? Absolutely. You're officially on page 2. Write your name. Yossi Siegelman, write your name. Go. No? Sign your kids away.
Even Malach can accomplish.
Yes.
How we say it in Yiddish?
Yes, exactly. That's it. That's it. No, Danny, come over here.
Okay.
We'll make a
Anyhow,
Go.
so right now,
Yeah.
we're sitting in a Farbrengen.
Sit for a minute. Sit down.
The fact that Chaim Warner
Yes.
is sitting right there, with Mashkin his hand, that classifies us right away. Since Farbrengen.
Sit for a minute.
Even if Danny Fisher and Jan Stark is sitting there, still it's Farbrengen, right?
You got 3 miles.
I want to say that I want everybody here right now to lift their glass and say L'chaim, that a full Shalem L'Krayba to Moshe Daniel Ben Siparna.
Amen. Hi.
That, as I said before, everybody has their issues that they think might be something. You find someone else that has a bigger issue. L'chaim, Danny, your issue shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, it's a non-issue. Non-issue.
And that we hear only good news very soon.
Amen.
And that we celebrate together for many, many years to come.
Amen. Have it over. Ah. What is this?
This is a Japanese whiskey called Matsui whiskey.
Oh, very good.
So my first time.
Really good.
Ah,
It's been getting good response.
good reviews.
So, the beautiful thing about Farbrengen, anybody that's sitting there can kind of share or inspire. And happens to be Shabbos, I was sitting next to Mati, and he had like some good stuff on his mind. And, like in the wow. It's everything's for a reason, right? And so if you didn't say you were going to say Shabbos at that moment, there was a reason I had to say that. Baruch Hashem, here we are Thursday night, right? In the week of, so everything is attached to Shabbos before the Shabbos coming. So maybe, you're entering a Shabbos of Simcha, of being able to make a Simcha. So share this episode with us sitting here at this Farbrengen.
What's the one? Let's see how it's coming in there. Oh! Very good. Tomato. No, Daddy's on empty.
You're on empty.
Do you remember?
Mochi, what are you drinking?
Brown? White? Brown? I can't tell.
Brown. Next Thursday night.
Nudam Nelson. Nathan. I haven't seen you since Crown Heights. Chaim, bravo. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Chaim. Yes. We should make sure I make yes. Sponsors? You want something like that?
Danny,
Or you want something like that?
Daniel, like a lion.
Amen.
The lions will be afraid of you.
Oh,
Right? The lions dead.
amen.
Right? They got nothing on you. Right?
Not a fan.
You're gonna roar.
Amen.
Oh, you should roar. You should. Yes, the lion's gonna roar. Hat. I know.
Muslims of Danny. Recording thoughts.
Speak words of wisdom.
I was there.
I don't remember all the things. I don't remember what words of wisdom Danny's talking about.
I do.
But there's something that I'll share right now. First, it's our Chayelo, which to me personally is a very big
By
deal.
the way, I was born, I'm raised in Israel. Israel, and my name was from the Baal Shem Tov because it was my Chayel, right? But even with that, let's say, bragging rights, I will tell you, my Chayel status doesn't even come close to Mati's. If there's one Jew that's a Chayel Jew, it's Mati Slotowitz. And I know that's the MS. And I don't know how many times Mati's been to Hadish for Chayel, but and Mati, I'm telling you right now, Sika and myself, we're going with you. Maybe not this year, but we're going with you. Chayel and Hadish, Mati, it's on our bucket list, 100%. By the way, if anybody knows how to turn back the fans back on, I would really appreciate it. Mama's hot. Yeah, go on.
Huh?
Monkey started to interrupt, but I had to.
I mean, it's a bit of a personal story, but I guess I'll share it. Chayel never, it always over-delivers. Chayel always over-delivers. And, okay.
I think my wife's locked out. Sorry. I don't wait for Rabbi to come.
Wait, who was walking on the walk that looks like the roof?
I don't even remember what. See, I don't know what you said, but I remember that you wanted to get it out. You couldn't get it out.
Some of the Rabbi Science has spoken about father wanting to, that the kids should not be, we should always make space for our kids, right? To be able to do shuma, right? That we can't, as parents, Hashem doesn't cut off his children, but the children can always have a place to do shuma. Okay, that's not what I had in mind for now. Okay, so on one of my trips over there, one of the hard trips, every time we go to Chayel, to Hadish, to Meshbet, there's something like heavy on the mind. Huh? So this is the first year in, I think, 18 years straight I have no. I'm not going.
You're not going?
Why not?
You see, this is the first year in 18 years you're not going.
Wow.
You know what we call it? That's called the power of love, guys. That's the power of love and commitment. Wow.
So, but there's a very powerful message in this. It just kind of hit me tonight. I was out with Becky and her uncle for dinner, and it really resonated. So I just want to share this. It's a really powerful message. So some of you know my personal story, some of you don't. But on one of the trips, many of the trips actually, I'd be davening. And Kaddish, when you go into the Alter Rebbe's kever, for those who have been experienced, it's silence beyond silence. It's an open Aron Kodesh like Tefilla.
You gotta hear this, Ron. Yeah, Mikey Sada was talking about Haddish. Let me tell you, like silence. Right when he said silent, I was like, my wife has to hear this. Keep going.
If you've ever put on those like the Bose noise canceling headphones.
Noise canceling headphones. I have a pair of Bose noise canceling headphones. I just recently gave them to my wife, and she was like, "These are unbelievable. This is like change your life. Change your life."
Like you don't suddenly you hit the switch and you can actually experience silence. When you walk in, and when you go to the aisle, you knock on the door, you go in. Those like people from the non-Shabbat say, "Wow, there's something very silent and very, very moving there." Imagine that 100 times, right? You walk into that room, it's like you switched on those headphones and you can experience, you can actually hear silence, and you can connect and daven in a way that is very few places in the world. And Danny, we're going to go. We should go soon, and I'll get there before whatever you're going to be top of the list. I guarantee success. Guaranteed. So, for various reasons, I've gone many times, and they've often been with a lot of personal weight on my shoulders. And one in particular was right before my divorce, that I didn't want, I didn't choose, but it was heavy. I was worried about my kids. I was worried about the future. And literally the pond that I rode was soaking wet. I mean, tears were on it. And I davened for many things, and I think many of us today daven for health, for parnasa, for shalom. The shalom bias isn't just between a husband and a wife, it's the shalom of the whole bias. Peace for the whole home. And nachas for my children, which wasn't something that I was on the top of the list for at the time either. I was chasing it, but like covet, when you chase honor, it runs away from you. I was chasing nachas, and it was running away from me. And that was it. That was one of the chayelus that was very memorable. And this year, today, I would normally be in Midrash and then going to Hadich and being chayel of the Shabbos. And this is the first time, not just because of COVID. It was already, even with COVID, Americans can get in, you can do a test. It's not like you can do it. But Baruch Hashem, we're celebrating a simcha this Shabbos. Baby's son Avi, my stepson, is having bar mitzvah.
Also, yeah.
The actual celebration will happen on Sunday night, which is chayelo. And nachas, the Eibishter has a bank account for nachas, like a Swiss account. Some people don't even know it exists, right? It's got like a secret number, and you don't really know how you're cashing in on it, but there's a nachas bank account somewhere that every once in a while the Eibishter is going to send you a dividend and a deposit that shows up, and you're like, oh, where did this come from? And I really have to say that here's this really, really cool kid, this Avi. Yesterday was a cousin, and today is a gadol. Wow. He's a bar mitzvah today, and he's in it. Like he went to camp this summer, and he did the whole thing: fill-in, hat, jacket, chayas, and he went. This is not
Still, by the way, I noticed.
Yeah. Very large. He late today. This is nachas, and nachas connects to us through not just our biological children, but sometimes not our biological children, just even through friends and through each other and through sitting on a Farbrengen like this. That's a nachas bank account that we don't even know we're going to cash in on. And I have to say that chayel, I can't be in Haddish because of the bar mitzvah. Of course, there's no question about it. Is the very day that there's going to be nachas a dividend.
Wow.
So just pay attention. It's a reality. There's nachas out there, and I can tell you it's very hard for me to look, very hard for me to find. But it's there. So I can say now for bringing your bar mitzvah, your birthday, nachas from yourself, nachas from your family, nachas from your wife, nachas from your children.
Amen.
Danny first, nachas from yourself. You're going to sing Suflana.
And the kids. Yeah, right.
Okay? We'll daven by the Alter Rebbe, we'll daven by the Baal Shem Tov, and you will see Yeshua Hashem to everybody.
Amen. So I'm going to give Matilde a little bit of nachas. I am because Mati made me who I am. With the siches, Mati still worked with me every single Shabbos. And speaking of shul, and it's not Mati did it all on his own.
That's a pretty big
Yes,
endorsement.
100%.
Josh was it.
L'chaim. Mati, l'chaim.
You weren't here, you wouldn't hear.
Mati, l'chaim.
You created a monster.
I'll tell you something, I just learned something tonight. Blew my mind. Because I'll tell you something, Chaim Morvis is a guy, me, you know, God puts people in your orbit for you to learn from, for you to admire, for you to look up to. Tell you something, I mamish look up to Chaim Morvis. When I see this guy, I see a picture of consistency, which is big, right?
Danny, it's your birthday.
You're not gonna get it, because I want to speak, and I want you to hear it. Sorry. Tell Levi to come back. But to hear Chaim say that his, whatever he has, comes from you, Mati, wow.
Absolutely.
That's next level type of stuff. Because
Absolutely.
seriously, I was just thinking as Chaim was sitting here, I was like, you know, this guy can just go about, give him any parsha, any subject, the Chaim can literally take, like spit out, sichas, memorim, like real. And I gotta tell you something. Listen, his father comes from Minnesota. He was born in like
Also
or something like that.
No, Minnesota. I'm also
He
Minnesota.
definitely has a bit of a put on A, that the chelim, that's not really,
Caleb.
not so authentic in my mind. But putting that aside, this guy is, he's a freaking rock star, this guy. Like, I'm a gabbai, okay? And I can tell you something, I always tell people, no, but I want to
The
tell you,
best guy.
I always tell people, and there's, I say it
preamble.
as a joke,
On the
but
Mekaya.
there's also MS there. When we started Chabad Scholar, Rabbi Zajac is such a wise man.
I really thought you were about to say right.
He's such a wise man.
I really
So he looked at us, the original pioneers, and he
Tough,
said,
right?
and he realized and said, who's the biggest challenge to having actual quiet in the corner during davening?
I'm not going to say that.
So he said, let me make this guy the gabbai. Guys, I haven't spoken during Thusrday in 15 years. It's awful. But that's in my mind one of the wisest moves Rabbi Z ever made. Made Fishman gabbai. You got quiet in the back of the show. You know what I'm saying? It's genius, right? But I just want Mati, Chaim Morvich. Listen, this guy in a year, he probably knew more names by heart than I know. After 12 years, that's real. Chaim have a chush. So for you to say that Mati.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, I've always respected Mati a lot.
Especially since the first time I was in Lubavitch was after the Matilde. Was literally the month that he got married. So I went for Thusrday, and he was getting married literally right after the Seder.
Let me tell you this, my sister and brother.
And I made sure to come back, and I brought him a picture that got broken.
They need to leave. They need to leave because they have young children.
Cool.
And my sister and my brother-in-law.
Oh! How are you? Welcome.
So I'll tell you the truth. What I was going to say right now, I was going to say for a little later, a few more times in, but because Malcolm and later are leaving, I want to say it now. So here's what I'm going to say. Moms, hear me? On birthdays, it's traditional in America, probably everywhere in the world, that you receive gifts. I am married to an incredible woman who very much values gifts. she knows gifts. She gives me gifts. I didn't even know I ever wanted such a gift.
Wow.
I'll tell you as an example.
Right, good.
She gave me an envelope opener. I've been opening envelopes with my finger for many, many
40 years, yeah.
And she got this amazing, it happens to be a brand that makes, a brand on Robertson, they have a shop.
Now you staff
A
my
very
homeless guys.
fancy letter opener. I gotta tell you something, guys. It's pretty amazing.
Is it engraved?
Opening
engraved?
my letters, my mail, with this gift that my wife gave me that I didn't even know that I would even.
Robin, what is it?
What is it? It's on the remember?
You didn't get
I
that
think it's
far.
a fish. It resembles a fish, and I'm a fish. But there's probably some more depth to the
Is
gift
that it?
that I probably still don't even yet understand.
Robin.
But so understanding that I've always looked at things as exactly that. They're things, they're stuff. When my wife says to me, "What do you want for your birthday?" Hey, I'm good. I got you. I got my kids. You do a little husband-wife, connection, Baruch Hashem, I'm good. That's a gift. What's physical things are today, on my birthday, I got a gift that was possibly, and I would say even probably, the greatest birthday gift I ever got in my life. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to ask all of you guys to go to your phones.
Oh.
Okay? And anybody that's on the Sola.
Oh my God, a new car!
I gotta pay that tax now.
Danny!
Look at the Sola shul chat,
I don't have it.
and you'll see what I just posted.
For the book.
So
Whoa.
What is it?
this was a gift that I got today on my birthday.
Oh!
Let me see it.
You never seen this before?
Yeah, not in black and white like that, but
You've seen it before.
Oh, wow.
this is me
Oh my God.
just before my bar mitzvah on the way to Eretz Yisrael, where I had my bar mitzvah with the first family,
Danny.
David, and Moshe Yeshua,
Yeah.
a man who I love, I will always love, will always appreciate Danny. You have no idea the feelings that I have and the love that I have for your father. I was just told to stop.
Hey!
Who's that?
Ah!
Happy birthday. Now you can continue.
So I got this. I got this picture from my son. My son is right now in Eretz Yisrael in Yeshiva Shalavim, which I'm not sure exactly where it is, but Mati for sure knows where it is because it's somewhere near Ramat Beit Shemesh, where Mati used to live. The Arabs put the concrete in his pipes. There's a whole story there, whatever. It doesn't matter. But somehow, my son, together with the help of my wife, coordinated this gift for me on my birthday. For those of you that are not in the Sola chat, I can't see what I just posted there, is a picture of me getting dollars from the Rebbe together with my father. I guess it was Sunday before my bar mitzvah, where we had my bar mitzvah in Eretz Yisrael with David First and blessed memory, and the rest of the first family that was there. I may have been there, I'm not sure.
Your father took such good care of my father. Your father, I mean, like, usually when you get that age and you get sick, all your friends kind of run away. And they're like, oh, I don't want to hear that. You know, but your father was going to build a ramp. He was talking about building a ramp into your house so they could wheel my father in and out of the house. That's what he was going to do before my father passed away.
My father loved your father.
Your father was have my father's. I think he visited every day, pretty much. I mean, it was amazing. I think that he kept my father alive for longer than I think he was supposed to be around, in my opinion. I just think that he was big. He was my father's best friend. Wow, before he left, man, for sure. There's no question.
So my son gave me a letter.
Which son, by the way?
He's in Yeshiva Shaladim.
I'm saying which one? Jake? Yeah.
This looks like this.
And so he sent this picture in black and white. And I don't know how much my wife helped, coordinate, but it was given to me today on my birthday. And there was a letter that he sent me that I want to read to you guys, because as much as he probably hate me for reading this to you guys, as I said before, I really think that we here, we're family. And I want to share it with you guys. That's it. So I'm going to read you what he wrote to me. You're a happy birthday, Todd. I chose to type this out because I don't think if I wrote this all by hand, you would be able to A, decipher my cryptic handwriting, and B, get past my egregious grammar mistakes. I'm sure I will be getting a call about right after you finish reading this letter. There's a lot of mistakes. When I was thinking on what to get you for your birthday, of course, I first thought of the simple one, vodka, which it seems no matter the time or the place can make you happy. However, I give you that for Father's Day, and it seemed pretty lame for your birthday, for your last birthday while I live in your house. Because my son is now moved out of my house and he's in Eretz Yisrael. Somehow, while sitting at dinner with Bubby, scrolling through the Gem Living Archive, I thought of what to get him. As I leave to Israel, it would be naive not to think back on those who have had such a profound impact on my way of life and what messages they spread that I should try to emulate in my everyday life. What an amazing coincidence that a picture exists with 3 of those very people. This picture is more than just a documentation of a moment. It was the meeting of the 3 forces that would soon lead the charge of your oldest son growing up.
Wow.
And in what way he lives his life.
Nice.
The picture is important, and I thought that it needed to go on our wall. I hope I can live up to the high standards they set. They who haven't seen the picture is me, my dad, and the Rebbe. They. First and foremost, the Rebbe teaches me so many lessons that I take on. How to be a good Jew and how to approach Yiddishkeit. He taught me that our job in this world is to make everything we do a catalyst for holiness. And the importance of embracing every Jew as a brother and a member of our holy nation. Sorry. So Zadie taught me the power of Shem Tov, a good name. Never have I heard more good things about a person from anyone who knew him. And being beloved by all isn't so easy, but he had a special way that really inspires me every day. And lastly, Tom, I can say that as your Bechor, I learn more things from you every day than I can put on a paper. But the one thing that is clear in almost everything you do is how you go the extra mile for other people. For sure, for me, my siblings, working hard and striving to provide for us is truly amazing to watch. But even helping out others, whether in our shul or around community, old friends, whatever may rise, work hard to help them. And finally, you set a good example of not only what a Ben Torah should be, but also how to live life to the fullest while adhering to the values of a Jew. That may be the single greatest gift you have given me. And I know that comes from your father and from the Rebbe, which makes this picture so special. I hope that I will be able to live up to the example that not only this year in yeshiva, but throughout my lifetime, I could carry them with me and pass them on in the future. Much love, Jake. So,
That was your stuff.
sorry about that. Thank you, Malcolm. So, I say l'chaim to all of us. Last night, the eve of my birthday, or as we exited my birthday, that the sheer power and the enormity of the gift that I received today for my birthday, I wish it for everybody here, that you get real joy and real nachas, as Mati just spoke about. Because I got that letter, I have real nachas. L'chaim, l'chaim.
Hi, Danny. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. So Danny's speech reminded me of an amazing story. The story that shows the Aliyah. Chayil.
You're bringing up the yes.
So, yes. So Danny said, when Rabbi asked him what present he wants, right? Like, Yashvias, what do we need a present for? There's a famous story with the Aliyah, and the story actually has a whole introduction. But the end of the story was that at the end of the day, the Aliyah received a snuff box. Snuff box. The story that led up to the snuff box is an amazing story also, in and of itself. The story with Carl, with the Tanya, yes. The end result was that Aliyah got a snuff box.
This guy's a freaking legend.
And
this guy got inspired by you. How crazy is that?
And the snuff box is made out of silver.
He makes the Energizer Bunny look like a bag. Go ahead.
So the Aliyah.
What? Go ahead.
It's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom wants to shock the power. So the Aliyah said that there's many organs in the body that all they want pleasure. And he says that, the one organ that's not fighting for pleasure, the mouth that wants to eat, is the nose. Huh? No, you got the smoke of cancer right there. Huh? Wasn't corrupt, right. So he says, and now, I'm going to go ahead and give my nose, into the neshamot. He said no. So what did he do? He took the hinge out of the snuff box, and he used the top for a mirror for tefillin. Fine. Now, there's a chassid that's telling the Tanach. The Tanach is the grandson of the Aliyah, and this chassid is telling the Tanach the story, and he says that the Aliyah broke the top from the bottom, and he used the top for the mirror. And the Tanach interrupted him right then and there, and he says the Aliyah never broke any body or anything. Any body or anything. Aliyah never broke. He probably just removed the hinge. Yeah, the pin from the hinge.
Could be put back.
The Rebbe had a whole sikh on this, literally a whole sikh on this, and says, what
I
is?
just want to interject for a second. Let you know that the second best gift I received today was actually a little mirror personalized with my name engraved on it from my wife.
Wow.
What are the chances?
I'm telling you, this is Hashan brothers.
That was the Aliyah snuff box.
This is Hashan brothers.
I buy it out for you.
I'm telling you, this is Hashan brothers.
What are the chances?
So the Rebbe says, now what's the whole thing of the snuff box? It says, unlike the rest of the world, Chassid didn't know that we actually have to utilize the world to elevate the world, to go ahead and bring perfection to the world, and that's what we bring Mashiach. In the world, there's two parts. There's an upper part and there's a lower part. And the rest of the world, what they do is they crush and they break, and the lower part of the world, they want to break, so they can elevate the higher parts. But the sinners we learn not to break the world, not to break the things that we do in the world. To the contrary, we have to elevate it. And you can elevate it through peace. You can gently go just remove the pin from the hinge. And when you go ahead and you do that, you can separate the higher part from the lower parts. And in this way, we elevate, not in a way of breaking and crushing and, killing yourself, but to the contrary, we're utilizing the whole entire world to the way it was intended to be made. Like we said before, Mishvil Reishis, Mishvil Yisrael. Because the Jewish people, they were the primary. Oh, wow! There you go.
Another true topic. Another true topic.
The whole entire world was literally created for the Jews to elevate it. That was it.
There's no Kool-Aid here, I'm okay.
And this is the Alter Rebbe. So Dama Chai El. Chai El, the birthday of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe had a neshama chadosha from Atzilus that came down, and who brought it down? The Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov went in a mikvah, and the whole thing, the whole story. But the Baal Shem Tov brought down a neshama chadosha, and the Baal Shem Tov didn't know who the neshama chadosha was going to. He didn't find out till just a couple months before the Alter Rebbe was born that it was going to Baruch was going to his own husband. He didn't know. He knew when the Neshama Chadash was coming down. He didn't know who was coming down to. Very interesting. And something very interesting is an Neshama Chadash that comes down takes more than 9 months to come down. Takes, if I'm not mistaken, 11 or 12 months. 12 months, yes. It takes a whole year for the Neshama Chadash to come down. Literally. Huh? It is the Cheshbon. And the Baal Shem Tov, he Farbrengen on his birthday, and he Farbrengen every year on his birthday. And the year that the Alter Rebbe was born, he mamish Farbrengen, and he made his tools off. Huh? Right. It was Kyle. And the Baal Shem Tov Farbrengen. And he said Neshama Chadash was born. And then in the middle of Farbrengen, his own Koren Publisher came and said, my wife had a baby. This, the Alter Rebbe was the Neshama Chadash. Huh?
What we should have bought?
Alter Rebbe's father.
Hassan's father, yeah. So, and
Just FYI, we got another one.
which one?
Also the years after.
Oh, very good. Right, and the Alter Rebbe. And so the Baal Shem
Also the anniversary of the Felice.
So the Baruch came in and told his Rebbe that his wife had a baby. And the Baal Shem Tov told the Baruch, so they made a massive Farbrengen. It was already a massive Farbrengen. It was another Farbrengen. The Baal Shem Tov told the Alter Rebbe's father 3 things. And I only know of 2 of the things. One is that the Alter Rebbe's father was not to let him know that the Alter Rebbe even existed. Not to raise the Alter Rebbe as a chassid at all. Nothing. He had to find it on his own. The second thing is he told him, Mr. Shemagid, that the Alter Rebbe was going to become your chassid. And the third thing was, to be very, very careful of the Alter Rebbe, not to let anybody know that he was going to be a genius, basically. He was a very, very precocious child. Not to let anybody see him, not to let anybody give him ein hora, not to let him unsupervised for, I think till 3. Whatever, for a certain amount of time, the Baal Shem Tov said to his father to make sure that he's undercover, under wraps. And this was the way the Alter Rebbe grew up. And it wasn't until the Alter Rebbe went to Mr. Shemagid that he really understood the sins. Because until then, even though he had grown up in a Hasidic household, he didn't know he lived in a Hasidic household. Yeah, amazing.
My wife.
By the way, it is a fish. I confirmed it's a fish. The end of the thing is a fish.
I want you to know, my wife said to me, please don't ask me to speak. Sometimes,
listen.
this is like real wisdom. When you're married many years, sometimes you learn that when your wife says to you, please don't, what she really means is, please do.
Yes.
Well, in that vein,
Rabbi.
my wife here somewhere.
Somewhere.
So I want to ask my wife to speak because she always has good vision. But before I ask her to speak, I'm going to ask my friend Yaakov Shalman, who's, I'll tell you something they say about Yaakov Shalman. He's the master.
Yes.
Master of the 3-minute Vartara. That's what they say.
By the way, Yaakov, the first week of the year that we had this Farbrengen, Yaakov came, it was Shabbos Bereshis. Yaakov prepared. Yaakov came in with more notes than I had. He came and he prepared and he had handouts. Yes, absolutely. This is Yaakov.
I just want to acknowledge that we have freshly delivered yaptik and cholent.
Danny, I have
individually packaged for.
Danny, I don't have a bar tour, but I have a public service announcement because you're talking about snuff.
All right.
I want to know that years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago, I would get caffeine headaches all the time. And I was sitting there on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, I would get caffeine headaches. My head would just start pounding later on the day. And I was saying, I know there's other ways that people take caffeine that are not so serious. But I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, right? Yeah, I'm not going to do that because someone will find out. But yeah, exactly. So, but then this guy comes in with snuff, right? And I looked at him and I saw the snuff and I said, wow, I have an idea. So me being brilliant, I went to the other room and I cut a rail of elite coffee and I snorted the coffee and I've been doing it every year ever since.
Snorting elite coffee.
Yes.
When do you do that?
Now I do it in the morning. You got a thing? Who's it? There you go.
Not the burger.
Oh!
Wow.
What? Danny, I just want to say that it works. If you don't want a caffeine headache, it's worth it. It hurts, but it's worth it.
Happy birthday, Danny. Happy Hashan Satzlacha. Now that you're 43, Gam Zula Toiva. I think, no?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So since you shared your birthday with the Friedrich Rebbe's anniversary, on your birthday, you got a beautiful picture and a letter from your son. And a mirror for your tefillin. The Friedrich Rebbe got a yeshiva. His gift was that his father instituted a yeshiva in his honor, Olympic women, which we were all very privileged to be part of. So l'chaim to that. And just to share, I don't know, something that was in my mind. 1935, when the Friedrich Rebbe was not well, so he said that everything that happens in his life, as he quoted the famous part of the Baal Shem Tov, whatever you see in life, you have to take as a message. It's hashgacha pratis. You have to find the hashgacha pratis in regular, everyday things. He said he was receiving certain treatment from the doctors, and they gave him an injection, and he noticed that the injection first started off being very cold, and then it turned very warm, and he took this as an avodas Hashem, that sometimes you go through things in life that they start off not very pleasant, but if you can break through and deal with the avodah, you could really work on yourself, you could find get to the moment of truth, get to the moment of satisfaction, so to speak. But I was thinking about this as it relates to us. We're sitting here in the times of Corona where we're wearing masks, this global pandemic, the 100-year flood, this is not normal times.
Individually packaged Farbrengen.
Never individually packaged yaptik and sterilized spoons. It's tough out there.
The leaders that are located in Los Angeles.
Amen.
So just to share a short idea that we learned from Kabbalah. Thursday night, little shishis. We say a part on Kabbalah. So one of the big themes in Kabbalah is something called Adam Ha'elyon. That God made us, when we say that God made us in His image, what image? God has an image. What image? We're coming to Rosh Hashanah. We're gonna dive into God. We're gonna pray. God, we're praying for your mercy. We're praying for your kindness. We're praying for your rahmanis. We're praying for your goodness. Who are we praying to? We're praying to God's kindness. We're praying to God. Who are we praying to? So what's the image of God? So God has an image, so to speak. We were created in His image. So Kabbalah says that there's something called godliness, which is not God. It's a reflection of God, just like the light of the sun that comes out of the sun. It looks like the sun, but it's not the sun. But it's an exact, perfect replica of the sun. So this thing called godliness is the same thing. It's a perfect replica of God, and it comprises two things simultaneously. It comprises simplicity and complexity. Simplicity is God Himself.
How are you?
Where God has no details. God is God. But at the same time, there are details. We can say God's kindness, God's compassion, God's grace, God's humility, all the things that we attribute to God. They're all together in one. So on one hand, there's this thing called God's image, which is a reflection of him in his total simplicity, representing him, but at the same time, it represents all the details that we attribute to him. And they are together in a perfect unity, which is really, this is, when we think about what it means to be connected to godliness, this is this idea, this is this paradox which makes no sense. And we as human beings are a reflection of this paradox. We have this same thing, which is a mirror of God's image, so to speak, which is on one hand, we're a single being, we're a body, we're one person. But at the same time, inside of us, we have the possibility for every possible thing. We could be kind, we could be angry, we could be mean, we could be cruel, we could be good, we could be bad. We have the full range of possibilities. So there's a complexity. So why was I thinking about this? I'm not sure. But this idea, I thought it relates to Corona. Because in Corona, you know, we're dealing with a pandemic. So inside of us, everyone's talking about antibodies and antibodies and this cells and those cells. And it's, you know, can we fight off a virus? Can we not fight off a virus? So there was an article I was reading, a scientific article that was saying how the thing about the body that's so amazing is that the body naturally does not want anything foreign to come into its being. We are a single being, and we want to preserve our being. We do not want anything else to come inside of us. And if something tries to come inside of us, our body's going to fight it and attack it and push it out. It does not want to accept anything outside of ourselves.
Like our country.
What's the flip side? What's the flip side? The flip side is an amazing idea. The flip side is there's a tenured professor at Wharton University named Adam Grant, and he talks about something that's really pretty incredible. He says that naturally human beings want to trust other people, which actually makes no sense when you think about it from the biological standpoint. Biologically, we want to preserve ourselves, and we do not want to let anyone else in. Yet, we also have a flip side to that, which is that we want to trust others and be connected to them, which is this idea of Adam and Elyahu. So on one hand, we want to be ourselves. We want to be the simple being that is preserved. And at the same time, we actually want all the complexity. We want others. We want people in our life. We want to be trusting. So, l'chaim, sitting on a Thursday night, just even speak a little bit words of these things. You know, we're coming up to Rosh Hashanah. We're connecting to a God. Who's the God we're connecting to? We're connecting to a simple God. A God that is beyond all the things that are plaguing our lives of all these things. And at the same time, we're connecting to a complex God who's capable of giving us everything. So, l'chaim, as the famous line goes, what is it? Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big God is.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what? What's a chassidus Rabbi is? If you don't have a chassidus habit, say a few words. Rabbi, yeah. Can you share a few words? Please.
Yeah.
Scott, a few words.
That wasn't where I got it from, but yeah, it is.
A few words.
Guys, please, 2 minutes.
A little closer, maybe. I can hear well.
Getting old.
He doesn't have the noise cancel. Someone's making noise over there. Sorry.
We'll see how
It's amazing. And as a key point. Opposite, we have such good friends and such good family. And I've been transported to the Great City tonight and to Israel and to so many souls that are so much bigger than us, standing on the shoulders of giants. And we're very blessed. And we're very blessed to come from such a shameful as this one said. We have a lot of knowledge. We have very good help. There's a lot of people rely on you, a lot. But with that, Miss Diane, I believe, comes from us.
How do you say on? It's responsibility. How do you say responsibility?
Thank you very
Keep going. Is that it? That's all you got? She always keeps us up. That's where I came in from. I was expecting a real.
It's like we have the oral Torah and the written Torah.
White fire.
In the masculine, and then there's the oral Torah and the written Torah in the feminine. And so the oral Torah is feminine. It's like I don't even have words for that. So there's sometimes there's something about self and everything that operates outside of and before Bereshit bara Elohim, and we're in that moment now, right? We're coming up to 25th of Elul, which is the first day of creation. So what can I say? There's nothing I say is going to hold for what the holiness of the inner moment, even coming together, blessing each other. Good shiur.
Brian. Hi.
Hi, Danny. Hi. I'm just gonna say a short word.
All right.
When I saw that picture that JT gave Danny for his birthday, I was very touched because actually I was at Danny's bar mitzvah, and we had discussed as a family, both families, to go to Israel together from Los Angeles through New York, where we stopped off by the Rabbi, and we all got dollars, and probably the first family was right behind that picture, like literally, I remember that. But this is probably the second best birthday party, because the first best birthday party was actually Danny's birthday around 37 years ago. Wow. When his parents were birthday for Danny and Mendel, because they're Mendel's birthday.
We're both in August.
Both in August, exactly. You have a lot of kids.
I've got to save someone, bro.
And that was.
I'm thinking Carmen Go Quiet was a little better.
I remember where.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Where all the kids, they brought their BMX bikes, and the activity was we just drive around the block and collect tickets, and it was like a little race, and it was very, very, very fun. And you had Danny's father-in-law, Shalom, Rabbi Shabara, and his mother, she lived a little very long life, giving out tickets. Anytime you went around, you got another ticket, and a ticket, I don't know who was beating who was tracking, but it was, you know, busy. It was busy. So that was Danny's definitely best birthday. Definitely, I remember that was like the best birthday. There was no way my parents were going to do that. Right? My girl.
In connection to the bar mitzvah, though, I will say that anytime that I read the parsha of Thusrday, I remember Danny's beautiful voice in the Tanach Zajac shul when he learned that parsha. Okay, and I'll never forget the legendary Rabbi of that shul, shiur, right? Shiur. I'll never forget the first part that Danny learned. Shiur picked up his eyes. Wow, because he couldn't believe some, little from LA is coming. He's leaning like a rock star, like in some Zajac, they have their fun and games with the tourists. Yeah, exactly. Here, Danny Fishman blew them out of the water, and that's another very good memory that I have of Danny and that shul during his bar mitzvah. Just to conclude that in this parsha, this Hitas of today, Thusrday, talks about all the brachas, right? I've risen. So I was listening to Josh Gordon, his beautiful Hitas podcast that he has, and I encourage anyone who wants to hop onto the Hitas bandwagon. It's an amazing podcast that he has. It's very to the point. It doesn't take a lot of time. And so today he talks about the brachas that were given. And Rashi explains over there about, they talk about all the brachas that one gets if they don't do certain things, or if they do certain things that they weren't supposed to. And Rashi talks about that why they were talking about these specific things that you get cursed for if you do, like, God forbid, if you disrespect your parents or other things or whatever that is. Why did they actually specify only these certain commandments? So Rashi explains there that these are the certain commandments that we're talking about are acts that one can do in quiet without anyone knowing, and therefore we want to bring it out to the public that, to make it a point. I want to say l'chaim to my very good friend Danny Fishman here, who is a fighter, and I always remember him as a strong personality, but most importantly, a very transparent person. Every person sitting over here in this room considers a good friend of Danny Fishman, and for a good reason. And like Jakey said, you have a Shem Tov, and Shem Tov is something.
My father had a Shem Tov.
Yeah, you inherited it.
I'm saying.
A Shem Tov, it's there. You don't get a Shem Tov, you don't buy a Shem Tov. Shem Tov is earned. And Danny Fishman is probably the most transparent person that I know. There's no, there's nothing that, that's hidden. But he's pretty transparent with his machshava, with his people, and definitely with his ma'isa. So l'chaim to Danny, Rami, for throwing such a beautiful birthday party. And you should both just have only simcha and nachas, good things, and to everybody at Sivas Mataiva.
Amen.
Hi. That was a great speech.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have removed the whole Josh Gordon. He does part of it.
No, but
Good. Listen, I'm like the Baal Tshuva who learns chitas for the first time. So like anything that I figure out, it's like hello.
As much as I respect my wife as from when we say the other side of the pizza.
Good.
They say Katie Slavowitz is a real. She's a isha tznua, and she has real wisdom and real Torah. She does.
Wait, I'm contracting.
And as much as my wife is getting upset at me, thinking I think that this Shabbos, as we're going into Shabbos celebrating your son's bar mitzvah, you can definitely share some words of inspiration with us. By the way, happy birthday, Feli. I think your birthday's around now. Something she can deal, trust me. Watch.
Next. So blessed. We have such a strong pleasure instead of the weekend. To the Baal Shem Tov. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful you're doing the highest of souls who are incarnated and keeping something so strong alive. I have to interrupt. Although I wouldn't do it. I know, and I'm saying it right. It's okay. I just want to say, like I said before, I just said that it's just amazing to kind of walk into the community and to really see like your brothers. And the first, I've heard about the first a lot. And I have to say, you know, there are times when Danny and Tamika haven't seen each other in a while, and it's literally like seeing like imagine like it's a shtickle Mashiach thing, but you know, like imagine like Hassan and Zul, they come to see each other and they're so happy to see each other. Not that it's like that, but the idea of like you're such brothers. So in honor of the first and the recent recognition of Kara that they're actually cousins, they both come from the same Fishman with another area. I have met Moshe Daniel. I've never met a Daniel who wasn't just amazing. Everything. I mean, I'm the postman, any Danielle I meet, they're amazing. And one of my most favorite people that I've met here, in ways I don't even think one might understand what, anyway, silence. Moshe, Daniel, and Sephora, you are a light. I should continue to give you so much love. And, I have like infinite heart. I'm like a Rabbi Nachman going back to Baal Shem. Like I know there's like little garbage like things, you know, but I think that way, like such a full heart, and it should only be good. It's so often where it doesn't feel good, and if only we had any Mashiach to really see that it's couldn't even live good. I bless you so much.
Amen. You're not off that's what we didn't ask for the speech. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that was a pretty good intro.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Thank you.